I used to watch so many videos on how to actually lock in, and I'd always see someone who would drastically change their life and do a complete 180. I would see how they would go from working a standard 9 to 5 job, could be Uber Eats, delivery driving, it could be a retail job, and now living a life of freedom, being someone who's ultra disciplined and someone who's managing to make Wi-Fi money. Now, that is exactly what I managed to do. And before you think, oh, it's so easy for someone like you to say, I grew up in South London to 2 immigrant parents. My dad had a Chinese takeaway. My dad's Chinese. And my mum, she's Colombian. She had to leave Colombia at the age of 20. My dad left his country at the age of 15 to fend for themselves. And sometimes we just see it and we forget that they were actual people who had to face real life situations and have real life emotions. Now, they left everything back home to give you and I an opportunity to dream, to make shit like this happen. And that's when I realized that back then I was so upset because why didn't I have the Lambos? Why didn't I have $1 million? My parents made sure that I had food on my plate, a roof over my head, and made sure I had clothes on my skin. But the most important thing that they gave me was the opportunity to dream. And that's why I'm going to show you today how to actually lock in and start chasing your goals. Because I want to give you a little story from exactly 3 years ago. I was 25, just turning, and I was lying down on this single bed at my mother's house. It was probably around 11 o'clock, and I remember I was looking at the ceiling and I had notebooks full of dreams and goals that I wanted. And then I realized that I'm 25 now. I don't have any career path. I didn't go to university, and I just have notebooks of dreams and nothing to show for it. And that's when I realized that I was just wasting my potential. I wasn't doing anything. And then I looked at the example of how my parents managed to actually do something, take action, take risks. Then I asked myself, what risks am I actually taking? Now, if you were to tell me that I was going to have a community of over 600,000 people and live off the internet, I wouldn't believe you. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, oh, it happened by luck. No, it happened because that's exactly what I wanted, because I managed to grab life by the balls. I realized that no one was coming to save me. I had to save myself and actually hold myself accountable. And I'm going to show you how to lock in 2026. So after 12 months, you can actually become the person that can achieve those goals of yours. I don't know why, but I've always felt like I've had this responsibility of being the first millionaire in my family, changing the generational bloodline, being the one to retire my family, providing and protecting. And it just never seemed like it was ever going to happen because I just kept on doing the same things. All I ever had in my mind was, how do I make money? Because growing up in a scarcity household, well, success to me was always money. How do I make more money? Now, I would try so many different things. I'll try drop shipping. I'll have a little bit of success. Then I'll go into the next one. Crypto, I'll have a little bit of success. Then I'll go into the next one. Trading. Like, it was always a thing where I would have this shiny object syndrome where I would see someone being successful at one thing and it seemed easy. Then the moment I would start it, then I realized it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Then I'll see someone else being successful at another thing. So I'll go into that one thinking that I can be successful at that one. Then I realized it's not as easy as it seemed to be. And then I would go expending all of this energy and dibbling and dabbling and everything and never really being good and never really growing in anything. And then I realized I had a very big problem. I was very impatient. I was someone that wanted instant results. And I was someone who was always chasing this quick dopamine, this quick success, which is why it was always failing. I was always chasing the next method, but I wasn't focused on becoming the person who can create and make that method work. Dropshipping works, trading works, because you've seen people that make it happen. But what's the difference between you? What's the difference between them? What's the difference between me? That we have stayed and focused on one thing until we've actually gotten good enough. So what do you have to be? The person that can make that goal happen. And that's one thing that we've never been taught. To be the person, become the who, then translate that into the how. My biggest issue with everything was that I was someone who was very, very emotional. I would depend on my emotions. The moment I would start something or have an idea that something could seem like the way out, I'd get so motivated, so excited, so happy, I'd go all in. Then the moment I'll start to see hardships, I'll start to see obstacles, I'll start to feel more doubt, I'll start to feel more insecurities. And then eventually that would always lead to me giving up. That was one thing that I would always do. I would always give up. But why? Because at the start I was enthusiastic. It seemed like it was happening. But then the moment I'd allow all of these doubts to enter my mind, then eventually what would happen? I would stop taking action. And that is a key word I want you to take away from this. action, because that's what most people do not do. Why? Because they allow themselves to be governed by their emotions, the same way that I was. And I want to share with you something now that this alone is going to change your life if you listen carefully to it. This goal, this dream that you want is in the future. It doesn't exist. Yet you get so overwhelmed because you don't know if it's going to come about, how it's going to come about. The reason being is because you want a guarantee. Now, let me tell you something. In this life, there is no guarantee. The only guarantee that exists is that one day we are going to die. The person that thought he was going to live for another 50 years, well, guess what? Sadly, he passed away today. And the person that thought he was going to pass away next week, next month, because he was diagnosed with something, guess what? He lived on for another 20 years. So trying to think of a guarantee is futile. Now, this future that you want, this dream, this goal that you want is going to be created with aligned actions that you take. Now, the outcome you can't control, but you can control taking action, which that will eventually give you that result. Because if you do not take the action, that will guarantee that you will never see the result. But the thing is, you get so overwhelmed, filled with doubt. Now, the only reason you get filled with doubt is not if it's going to come about, because if you never stop taking action, then eventually it will come about. So the way that you remove that anxiety is by answering this simple question. Are you going to stop taking action? And if the answer is no, then that anxiety will leave, because the action is something that you can control, and the action can only be taken in the now. Now, that's why the present is a secret. That's why the present is a gift. And that's why you have to be grateful, because when you are grateful, you can only be in the present. The reason you are ungrateful is about something that you do not have, because you either go into the future about what you do want, or you go into the past about something that you didn't have. The past doesn't exist. That's how you end up feeling the state of depression, thinking what you should have done differently. You did not do it, which is why it is futile to think about the past or what you should have done. You just have to think about, what can I do today that's going to get me closer to that person that I want to become? And that is going to be the secret of controlling your emotions, to make sure that you become a person who is consistent and always taking daily action. Which is why I told you the secret of being consistent is learning to control your emotions. Which is why don't get overly excited when something goes your way, and don't get overly upset when something doesn't go your way, because eventually it affects the way that you feel, and the way that you feel will eventually affect the way that you take action, and the way that you take action will eventually give you the results that you have, whether positive or negative. So don't let a win get to your head, and don't let a loss get to your heart. Always try to keep it neutral so you can be consistent, so you can eventually see this outcome that you want. I'm going to give you the exact blueprint that you need to lock in for 2026 to make all of your dreams happen. The first thing that you need is the who, the vehicle. If you're going to a destination, you need to make sure that your vehicle gets there. So what do you have to do with every car or every vehicle before it does a long drive, before you can take it on road? Well, it has to have an MOT. So what is an MOT? Well, it's service. You have to audit yourself, because you are the vehicle that's going to take you to that goal. You have to self-audit. And this is where you have to feel the pain, because the pain reveals the truth, and only then can you start making changes. See the reasons to why you always make the same mistakes, because only then you will find the habits. Because once you find the habit loop, you can now change the behavior. Once you change the behavior, you change the results, which now gives you a new set of habits, which is now going to give you a different result, the one that you want. That is why I want you to lean into the pain. Are you lazy? Are you someone who procrastinates? Then you lean into it. That's how you find the solution. You always have to self-audit. This is how you become aware. This is how you become emotionally intelligent. Then you have to become disciplined today, which is the only thing that exists, like I told you before, that's going to allow you to keep on going. You need to know where you want to go to. Now you have the vehicle. Now you need to know the destination that you want to get to. Where do you want to get to? Well, that's where you need to have very clearly in your mind, what is this goal that you want to achieve? Because most people have set one goal and then they change their goal. So they go to the next destination, to the next destination. So you are driving around, expending all of this energy, going nowhere. Fixate yourself on one goal and make sure that you can stay consistent enough. Do the boring tasks. Do the things that most people don't want to do. And that's how you will beat 99% of people. The third thing is always make sure that you are establishing those skills. Make sure that you're always learning on how to get to that goal. Remember, your vehicle is going to be the one that's going to get you there. But like every vehicle, after making X amount of miles, X amount of kilometers, you have to service a car. Because once you service it once, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect forever. No, you constantly have to service it. The same way with us, which is why I'm going to give you a daily process for you to follow to make sure that you are serviced every single day to work at the utmost of your ability. You need an anti-goal and you need a goal. An anti-goal is creating an image of the life that you would hate to live. Write it down. as clearly as possible and as detailed as possible. A goal is having an image of the life that you love to live. Now, if you do not know what you want, make sure you know what you do not want. Because every time that you are taking an action and no action is still an action, ask yourself, this is either create the life that I would love to live or the life that I would hate to live. One of the two. Now, which one are you doing? Because what this does, it leads to action. And most of the time, the reason why most people do not take action is because they do not feel ready. And let me tell you something. Ready is not a feeling. Ready is a decision, because you are never going to feel ready. The right time will never come, because there's always an inconvenience, always something that's happening. But that is why you have to condition yourself to be responsible and accountable for your own life. You treat your life so part-time-ish, which is why you're getting part-time results. You have to make yourself a priority and make sure that you focus on the anti-goal and the goal. Now, how do you make sure that you do that? You have to focus on the vehicle. You are the vehicle. Follow this daily system which I'm about to give you. Follow it for 30 days and I can almost guarantee you that you will have the most drastic change in your life. Wake up early, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. every single day. Oh, but what is waking up at this time going to do for me? It does nothing for you. It's about what it removes. It removes that self-doubt. It removes the procrastination. It removes that imposter syndrome. Because waking up at 5 a.m. isn't going to do anything for you. The reason it's going to change you is because when that alarm sounds, everyone wants to click the snooze button. But the moment you go past that emotion, do the thing that you know you're meant to be doing, guess what you've just done? You've respected your word. Now, whenever something else uncomfortable comes, you can also do that because you have proven to yourself, evidence that you can do the hard thing. It's all about stacking wins. It's all about the evidence in your actions. That's why many people don't ever believe in themselves. That's why most people don't have this confidence, because they sit down telling themselves that I am this person, I am confident, I am blessed. But where is the evidence to back it? If you tell me I'm a bad person, yet the evidence behind me has shown me I am a good person, well, guess what? I'm a good person. But if I'm a bad person and I want to convince myself that I'm a good person, well, the evidence behind me shows me that I'm a bad person. That is why your evidence, the actions that you take, is the evidence that says you are who you say you are. And the reason most people don't take action is because they give themselves this excuse that I need to prepare more, I have to focus on this, I need to do that. But thinking and preparing isn't actually doing it. And excuses are valid, and that's why they are very dangerous. But what has it actually done for you? It's made you feel better, but is it improving you? No, it's not. And the biggest reason why most people don't take action is because they are afraid of making mistakes, because they care about what people think. They're afraid of the fear of embarrassment. But let me tell you something, embarrassment is such an underexplored emotion. Feel the fear and do it anyway, because that will make you feel so alive. Because everything you want is on the other side of fear. Because those who live in fear, you are not living, you are just existing. Because you are suffering so much more in your imagination than in reality in itself. You're always thinking of a worst case scenario of what could be, that you never get to experience life. Why? Because you've now just lived these imaginative things that this could happen, that could happen. Why don't you see what can happen? Oh, but that idea only ever stays an idea because you're afraid of taking the action. Fear is a preservative of life. Worst case scenario is you are going to die. Are you going to die? Of course you're not. You're just afraid of what someone else might think. And if you live your life trying to please others and try to make everyone else happy, well, you're going to do it at the expense of your own. So what are you willing to do? Look back to when you were a child and you've done everything that scared you. How alive did you feel? When you were dead, when I was a kid, playing knockdown ginger, going on doors, knocking on doors, that made me feel so alive. I don't know why, because it made me realize that, wait, I was stopping myself and I did it anyway. I thought I couldn't do it and I did it anyway. When I was dead to go speak to that girl, and I would think of all of these things that could go wrong. She might not like me, she might not say this, and I would just make this big crazy scenario. Then I'll speak to that girl and think, oh wait, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I just realized that I was just limiting myself. So what else can I do? That is why I want you to be someone who can take action regardless of how you feel. That is why I tell you to wake up early. That is why I tell you to always show up for yourself. The next thing I want you to do is read a book. You have to read books so you can see life from a whole different perspective, because you only see life from your lens. Life is all about perspective. That's why I have so many books behind me. Just read a self-help book every single day. It doesn't have to be much, something that just stimulates the mind. The next thing is that you have to go to the gym, get in the best shape of your life. oh, but why do I have to go to the gym to get into the best shape of my life? You have to show up every single day, because there is no human on this earth that will respect themselves knowing that they could be in better physical performance, because they are not in that physical performance, that physical shape that they could be in because of their poor choices. Which is why, again, delayed gratification. Make sure that you show up every single day to find not happiness, but peace. Because when you go to the gym, you're not going to be happy. When you make hard choices, you are not going to be happy. But at the end of it, what you're going to feel? Peace. You're going to find fulfillment. Because at the end of that, that's when you find true happiness. Because most people, that's how they go down this hedonistic path of drugs, women, because in the moment it feels fun. But what do you feel after? Regret, shame, and guilt. Those negative emotions. You're always going to feel it hard. You're always going to feel pain. But the thing is, there's only one that's going to give you a pain of achievement and one that's going to give you the pain of regret. Now, which one are you going to choose? And most of the time, the one that looks nice in the moment, that's one that most people fall into, and that's the one that deceives the most. Make sure you have this vision of the person that you want to be. How would they speak? How would they act? How would they behave? What would they do? And just be like that person. Just look at all of your favorite movies. The actor, what does he have to do to make sure he acts like that person? Well, he has to study the scripts. He has to live as if he is that person to eventually embody that person. That is what you're doing. The thing is, you keep on thinking it's cringe that this is not me, because you keep on thinking like your old self. And if you think like your old self, you will feel like your old self. And those feelings turn into action. Those actions turn into habits. Those habits into results. So what you have to do, you have to change the way that you think. Changing your perspective is going to help you. Then that changes the way that you feel, changes the way that you act, changes your habits, changes your results. So that's why every single day it's not going to feel natural, because feeling natural to you is making sure you waste time, making sure that you procrastinate, leaving things till tomorrow. That is what feels natural to you. That's why you have to do what's uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. Be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that's how you grow, and that's how you actually lock in. So if you do this in 2026, you wake up early, you self-develop, you never break your word, you always live in alignment with the person that you want to be, you make sure that you listen to your identity and not your emotions, you make sure that you learn skills and you do this consistently and daily, you think about today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, and you show up every single day, making sure you live in alignment with your conscience and live a life with no regret. This is how you will actually start changing your life. This is exactly what I done, and I promise you, you will start seeing greater results. Now, if you want to do this and want me to help you, have direct access to me and guide you along the way, and you're serious about making changes in 2026, I'm working with a select few to help you change your life. If you're tired of living the same cycle, waiting for another year for your time to come, and 10 years have gone by and you don't want to waste another 10 years, DM me the word ready on Instagram or book a call below to see if I can help you. Let's get this working. Let's change your life. Let's create the person that you're proud of. Let's get it. That's you out.